amend our criminal law and our procedure.
Please continue po, Mr.
Okay,
President.
thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like also to ask the former president, no? Would you say that with the lack of, with the outmoded na system na po ng criminal and legal justice system that we have, would you say that
Thank you. Mr.
just to
Chair,
catch up with the crimes,
I'd like to
would it
ask,
be
former
okay
President,
to also engage
would you say that with the
in
lack of
killing,
the outmoded
you know,
na
supposedly or allegedly criminals in the streets?
Yan ang problema. Yan ang
say
problema.
that
Because of the limitations imposed by law in detaining a person,
would it
pag
be okay
pawalaan mo yan,
engage in
alam mo, ang pulis, mas marunong yan sa kriminal eh.
supposedly or
Alam nila na pag nawala ito, sir, they would go back to either pickpocket or hold up. Kaya yung iba would result in the loose term salvaging. Okay. Pinapatay na lang nila, sir, para wala na silang problema because there would be criticism against them, either pickpocket or hold up. Kaya yung iba would result in the loose term salvaging. Okay. Pinapatay na lang nila, sir, para wala na silang problema because there would be criticism against them and the outcry of the public, and sometimes tinatapos na lang talaga nila. Ganon talagang istorya kasi prosecutor, dumaan ako prosecutor.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Chair,
Shortcut. Shortcut na lang.
okay. Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I believe you're familiar with the may saying po sa legal community na the law may be harsh, but it is the law, no? That to me, Mr. Chair, that can also be applied, and currently, no, the law may be weak, as you described it, no? That's why we are having this discussion. Also, is for the squad committee to possibly amend or introduce any that would strengthen our policies in terms of criminal
We
justice
appreciate
system.
that, sir.
Yeah, but a law, that logic can also be applied into my own understanding. A law can be weak, but it is the law. So that premise, Mr. Chair, is exactly has to be observed in order to avoid people taking their justice into their own hands, no? Mr. Chair, would you agree with me on that, Mr. President?
Correct, sir. So that to put a stop to it, there must be progressive laws from every now and then. So it is duty of Congress to listen to the police and the law enforcement agencies involved so that malaman nila what corrective measures that they can legislate so that these things will not happen or will not be perpetuated by some.
Okay, Mr. Chair, those killings that had happened in the previous years, no? Policemen who or ordinary citizens who have killed, no? Their, certain criminals, because the way you characterize it, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, is that rapists, kidnappers, I believe in 100% that nobody in this room would ever support those kinds of individuals, the way you characterize them. Now, those, let's say, policemen, kasi the topic really is yung pag-order nyo po, no? Sa mga, ang sinabi nyo, you admitted na, by policy, you feel that you are responsible. But on the specific cases, sabi nyo, you are not bound legally to respond to those criminal cases individually, but the policy direction, you claim to be responsible and you take full responsibility in that. Now, those policemen who have, let's say, palagay po natin, who has implemented po, no? Yung pagpatay po ng mga criminals in the streets. Would that be also, Mr. Chair, for me, help me understand po, Mr. President,
Yes,
would
sir.
that also fall under the category of taking the laws into their own hands? Because
No,
that's
sir.
precisely why we are avoiding those. I hope you would understand me po, Mr. President, because I came from a community, and I know fully that you understand this. I came from a community where there's a cycle of violence, that people tend to take justice into their own hands. Alam niyo po yan, yung
Correct,
Rido.
sir.
And I, for one, would like to strengthen our criminal legal justice system in order to avoid and put a stop to the cycle of violence. Now, those policemen who have killed, the word is extrajudicial killing kasi outside of the bounds of the law, who have killed individuals who are charged with, not even charged, but they suspected of involving themselves in criminalities. Would that be sufficiently or accurately fall under the category of the phrase to take justice into their own hands, which is diametrically opposed to the rule of law and the whole system of our governance, which is based on the democratic principles of separation of the
It is
judiciary, the legislative, and the...
It is always unlawful.
I'm sorry po?
Mali talaga. It's unlawful. Not lawful. Outside of a judicial pronouncement that you are... Pero wala na tayong death penalty ngayon. That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying po, it is unlawful to kill outside of the bounds of the law. Is that what the former president is saying to the committee? Kasi my question po is, my question po, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, on the legal maxim that, you know, the law may be harsh or the law may be weak, no? Unfortunately, in the way you describe it in our current legal system, it's weak. But we have to observe that. No, anything that is done outside of the bounds of the law,
Outside of the law
outside of law is
illegal.
it is
unlawful.
illegal, unlawful. So therefore, Mr. Chair, may I deduce from the way the former president responded to my question, but so that I can be elucidated, those killings were unlawful and illegal.
Well, depends, sir. There has to be some a condition. Not all killings are legal, and not all killings are illegal. There are killings.
No, pardon me, Mr. President. Just to put into context, those individuals who were killed by the orders of by your orders po, no? Admittedly kanina, yung sinabi niyo po, would you categorize that as something illegal or unlawful?
That would be unlawful.
Okay.
Because kasi, sir, kung nasa custody na ng police, naka-handcuff na, nakatali na, what would be the point? Pati ako, police, hindi trabaho ng lalaki yan. Totoo lang.
Okay.
I cannot, for the life of me. Pero kung may baril ka, papatulan talaga kita. That has been my as mayor. Papatulan talaga kita. And it had happened many times.
Yeah. Okay.
I participated in the shootout early on when I was about just 3 months mayor.
So, yeah. Mr. Chair, if I may be continued, Mr. President. So those who have killed under the AJK, no, sinasabi po, the implementation of the war on drugs, those who are, kasi there are also cases wherein yung namatay po ay hindi nanlaban, no? So are we saying now, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, that those who have nanlaban cannot necessarily be considered illegal, but what about those na hindi ho nanlaban na bigla lang namatay? Can they also be considered as not illegal,
Then,
Mr. Chair?
Those police officers, law enforcement agencies, whoever they are, kung pinatay nila unlawfully, not in self-defense, not in the performance of duty, kung civilian ka or police ka, in the performance of duty, which would include the elements of self-defense, talagang illegal yan.
Okay. But Mr. Chair, no, let me continue on, Mr. Chair, no. Let me also ask the former president, being a prosecutor himself. I think the bulk of the discussion that we're having right now is on the assigning of the term criminals, no? Because ako po, Mr. President, gumagamit din po ako ng hyperbole. And I'm sure karamihan po sa atin talaga ay just as figures of speech, no? Pag meron po tayong hindi magandang nakita, po pwedeng sabihin natin na you are so and so, no? Pag halimbawa mayroon akong kalaban or mayroon ako, pwede kong sabihin na ito si ano so and so, no? So those are just some mere accusations, no, allegations. Who do you think, or which agency of the government do you think has that mandate and, again, the mandate and the authority to assign the such and such person is criminal, and when can that, for example, I believe it's the court, no? And when can the court finally categorize you or call a certain individual allegedly of committing a crime criminal, Mr. Chair?
Sir, we have to go para hindi tayo mawala sa
Yes po.
discussion.
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
If I may, I'm not trying to... Alam mo, sir, we have to start with the elementary thing. The law enforcement starts with the police. So he goes out there, enforces the law. If there is a violation, he makes the arrest. If there is an arrest made and there is a resistance, no person na inaaresto niya and talaga nakita niya na it is a very serious one, the police, the trabaho of the police is not only to say that I am a police, that you are under arrest, but the police has to overcome the resistance physically. If there is a resistance, bugbugin na niya o anong para madala niya sa estasyon pagkalumaban and book him for the crime that the guy committed. Kasi pag lumaban yan, magsuntukan talaga, minsan nababatuta. And the police is right in making that arrest if there is a resistance. This is not to defend the police. Pero kung sila mismo, naalanganin na sila, o yung may raid, tapos may baril, hindi na kailangan sila magtanong ng ano, walang kaseremonya yan. It's either we say, you surrender, raid ito, at may maling galaw, the slightest move on the hand, even if it is equivocal kung ano ang dinudukot niya, basta may baril, the police can kill the person.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Now, that's given, for example, that scenario, no? Would you say, Mr. Chair, that I agree with you, talagang may karapatan yung mga pulis mo mang-depensa, no? Even hindi lang ho pulis, no, Mr. Chair, even yung mga ordinary tao, if you feel threatened, talagang you have the right to defend yourself. But again, going back, Mr. Chair, doon sa issue ng EJK, because this is what I'm trying to understand, Mr. Chair.
extrajudicial killing, sir?
Yes po.
Sige,
Okay.
okay.
This is what I'm trying to understand po, Mr.
Let's
Chair. No?
zero in on that issue, sir.
Yes po. The reason why I'm asking you this, Mr. Chair, is, again, remember po, Mr. Chair, I premised my question on the very basic principle of the rule of law, due process, and etc. So the question is, of course, tayo po, it's easier for us to accuse, no? And it's only for the courts to really find out whether that person is really guilty of committing such crimes or not.
Correct.
Now, and earlier, tinanong ko po kayo, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, kung ano po yung mga lapses ng criminal justice system natin, and you have mentioned several, no? Kaya nga po ang tanong ko, binabalikan ko po, kasi this is the contention of the discussion right now. Is it justifiable, for example, that those who's the power to designate, for example, if a person is guilty or not in certain crimes, can also be taken up. Justice can also be taken up by ordinary policemen or any ordinary citizens to kill anybody charged of any criminalities without even allowing them to go to courts, no? Kasi that would be inimical again po to the due process and to the rule of law, and diametrically opposed to the rule of to the democratic processes
Meaning
that we
to
have.
say,
That's what
sir,
I'm trying po, Mr. President, to
I
understand.
understand you.
Kasi this is all about EJK. And unfortunately, in the previous administration po, with all due respect, there are several also allegations of those who are not been suspected of engaged in illegal drug activities that have also perished during the actual operation of our police. Yun lang po yung gusto kong malaman so that I can also be elucidated on how we go forward in trying to introduce some laws or amend some laws, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Hindi na kailangan, sir. Wrongfully killing a person is a crime. Kaya nga, hindi na kailangan na magsabi tayo na itong pulis na ito guilty. If pinatay niya yan, sir, not in the performance of a duty, not making an arrest, and there is no resistance at all, papatayin mo ang tao unarmed, nakatali ang paa, pati nakatali ang kamay, that policeman belongs to the penitentiary.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, earlier, Mr. Chair, one of my colleagues here asked...
Congressman Adjong, you have 2 more minutes. No?
Okay, thank
So
you. I will
let's
wrap up.
please, wrap up.
Yeah, I will wrap up. Mr. Chair, earlier, Mr. Chair, one of my colleagues here mentioned about in 2013, there was a study that came out po. It was a study came out placing Davao City as one of the safest cities in the world, no? Even surpassing on the city of Ontario and Tokyo and some. That was during your incumbency, Mr. Chairman, no, Mr. President, no? In 2013, you were still a mayor at that time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So placing Davao City as one of the safest cities in the world. Do you attribute that the study, the research that was conducted, do you attribute that to the number of arrests or the dispensation of justice for the operation of the courts, or do you attribute that to the EJ case, Mr. Chair, Mr. President?
Killing cannot be a solution to all of these things that we have to deal with in life. Yung ako ang mayor, sir, alam nila, when I was a prosecutor, alam na nila, including the police. Alam na ng police. Takot ang police sa akin kasi wala akong patawad. Alam na ng taong Davao na pagka ikaw ay nagkasala, talagang walang pa akong patawad. Hindi ako nagpapabor ng pulis, sir. Pag nagkamali ang pulis, ako mismo, at ako mismo ang nagbubugbog sa pulis. Tanong ka ng, nandito man si, ako mismo ang bumibira ng pulis pagka inaano nila yung sibilyan na what for every reason, layo na maglasing, magbugbog ng asawa. Pag pumunta yan sa City Hall, sir, talagang black and blue yan. Sipa, suntok.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I take that as yung...
Ganon ang disiplina, sir, sa pulis ko. Hindi ko pinagyayabang. Kasi may baril yung pulis eh. Kaya lang, alam nila may kasalanan sila. Kung mo basta-basta gawin yan sa basta na lang. Pero ganon ang practice ko. Binubugbog ko talaga.
Mr. Chair, I have here po the ito pong ranking ninyo, pang 12 po ang Davao the safest. Let me go back to the question po, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Ang gusto ko lang pong malaman is, of course, there are criteria, again,
Yes, sir.
there are criteria for Davao City to to land 12 spot, no, among the safest. I wasn't really asking about how the former president and the former mayor dealt with the airing cops in his city. I was just asking about the study that was conducted. I'm sure hindi po you're very proud of, you know, lahat naman to magiging proud po kasi safest city. I just like to ask po the former president, would he attribute this this accomplishment to the killings of criminals, alleged criminals in the streets, no? Itong EJK, would he attribute that to the number of arrests or the fast dispensation of justice in the operation of the courts in Davao City?
Walang criminal kasi, sir, kasi nag-warning ako. Pag sinabi ko, when I became mayor, I'll give you 48 hours to pack up and disappear. Yan ang warning ko. Ngayon, after 48 hours, pag nakita kita,
Ano po?
tabla na.
Ano pong mangyayari after 48 hours pag nakita niyo po sila?
Yun ang hindi ko masagot, sir, sa iyo. Kasi gusto mo akong makulong, sir?
Hindi ho. Tinatanong ko lang ho kasi this is how you run.
Akala ko kaibigan tayo.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I know that you've taken your job as mayor seriously. That's why I'm asking how did you able to manage to keep, you know, crimes at a very low level po in those times. Kasi I also link this with the case of extrajudicial killings which you admittedly po kanina po na sinasabi ordering the police
Nangyari yan,
gig. I just want to put in everything into context so that I can understand. Now, Mr. Chair, for my final question, I believe I'm wrap up. For my final questions, earlier, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, you also mentioned, you were asked also, bakit you resorted to ordering the police pag nanglaban, patayin, pag ano, kasi ang response niyo po, I think it was Congresswoman Franz Castro who asked that question. And you responded to her na kasi medyo masikip na sa kulungan. Kaya para mas maluwag-luwag, patayin na lang yung iba, no? That's what I heard, Mr. President. So that I took that as the response of the President because that's what the response from the President. Now, I'm just curious po, Mr. President. For 6 years po, you were President, no? 17th and 16th, and I guess in 17th Congress, you were the President at that time. And there were several bills that were proposed by this Congress to reinstate the ano yun? Yung capital punishment, yung death penalty. First for heinous crimes and other illegal for illegal drug related crimes, no? And I believe the lead chairman of this committee, Congressman Ace Barbers, was one of the authors of those bills. I'm just curious, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, why didn't you put the weight of Malacanang to support that bill? Why haven't you certified that as an urgent bill?
Wala pa ako sa Malacanang, sir.
Ano po?
Wala pa ako sa Malacanang.
It was proposed po during your incumbency as president. That would have been a perfect opportunity for your administration to really fight criminalities, especially those who have been convicted of illegal drug crimes. So I'm just wondering po, Mr. Chair, that was the opportunity. Has there been any talks in Malacanang that such 7 bills that were introduced during the 17 Congress under your incumbency? In fact, I mentioned earlier, former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo was here. I vividly recall when the voting was ongoing, President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo voted not to pass the reinstituting of the criminal offense of death penalty. So I'm just wondering po, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, that was televised po all over the country. why didn't you put your weight, the Malacanang's weight, and maybe to
Are you
certify this as urgent bill?
Asking my honest opinion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Mr.
You
President.
restore the death penalty.
I'm sorry
Mas
po.
mabuti po, ibalik ninyo ang death penalty.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you po, Mr. Chair. In fact, in my own Sharia law, although it's not recognized by the Philippine judiciary, there's no criminal component on the PD 1083, but I do support, death penalty personally as a policy. Death penalty for certain crimes, heinous crimes, rape, etc.
Heinous.
I'm just heinous crimes, and I'm just curious po, Mr. Chair, and I want to understand from the perspective of the President, when he served as President for 6 years and 2 Congresses passed during his tenure as President, there were several bills introduced by the House of Representatives, one of which the authors is actually here, sitting there as a lead chairman. Why hasn't the President put the weight of Malacanang to push this further and make it as a law?
Yes, sir. Eh, ang problema, ang Congress, hindi mo kontrolado eh. In a Congress, it's a conglomeration of human. Some are libertarians, some are hardliners, some are mild-mannered. But on the average, sir, hindi mainit ang ulo. Hindi, exception, naging congressman ma rin ako. Pero iba ang ano ko, sir, because I've been trained as a prosecutor kasi for a long time. And besides, I was also teaching to augment my income kasi wala naman akong masyadong pera nung nag-asawa ako. Was teaching criminal law and criminal evidence. So, malapit talaga ako dyan sa crime. At stricto ako dahil nga natuturo ako. Alam ng pulis yan. Pati yung pulis na yan, wala yan silang patawad.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to end my time, Mr. Chair, with the manifestation, if I may be allowed, Mr. Chair.
Very quickly.
Thank you. Very quickly, Mr. Chair. I was listening to the responses of the former president, and there are some allegations that were made today, which I believe the former president challenged anybody or any group to bring that to the courts. And that challenge, Mr. Chair, I take it as a form of the president's believing in the rule of law. I've just believing in the rule of law and the operation of our courts.
When there is 2 issues, sir, and we cannot understand each other, we go to court.
Yeah, I commend you on that, for saying that. I hope, Mr. Chair, that the same should have been also accorded and should have been also been extended to those who died in the streets. I believe the former president, by just encouraging anybody, any individual to go to court and file these cases, because I believe that's the proper venue for that.
Sir, there are independent investigations, investigative bodies. It is not only the police. You can rely on the NBI, the Human Rights Commission, and others. You can tap anybody there to help in the enforcement of the law against itong sabi mong illegal killings of criminals, or what they would call yung sa ating parlance ngayon as salvaging.
Yeah, thank you.
Congressman Adjong,
Again,
yes.
let me just put an end to my statement, Mr. Chair, if I may be allowed. Again, that encouragement from the former president to bring these cases to the courts, it's actually a manifestation that all of us here, even the former president, believes in the rule of law. And I hope, Mr. Chair, that out of the 33,000 or 2,000 or thousands who have died, sana nabigyan din ho sila ng ganong, they were also have accorded with the same privilege of under the law of innocence until proven guilty. It's only the court that can assign anybody whether that person is criminal because there are corresponding crimes and with the corresponding punishment according to our law. So, Mr. Chair, I will end that with that manifestation because I do not want, Mr. Chair, to be honest with you, to be honest to everybody here, I do not want the cycle of violence, no matter the intention, because I've lived that, I've seen that, and I know it will bring no good to everyone. I don't want EJK. I don't want the cycle of violence to happen. Mr. Chair, thank you very much. And maayong
Thank you very
gabi.
much.
Dagang salamat, Mr. President.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Chair.
much, Congressman Adjong.
Mr. Chair.
Senator De Lima, former Senator De Lima, I just want to take up some matters before I recognize you. Earlier, Attorney Degra called the attention of the committee about proposed legislation and what legislative act Quad has done or intends to do. I have here, Attorney Degra, 8 pages. If you want, I can read each legislation to you. House Bill 10986, House Bill 10987, House Bill 110843. All of these are new proposed measures. We have policy recommendations as well. For extrajudicial killings, we have policy recommendations as well, totaling to 8 when it comes to the issue of illegal drugs. We have proposed amendments for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 existing laws. We also have proposed legislation to repeal and revoke certain laws that are not anymore needed at this time, and possible enactments of other laws. I will give you a copy of this, Attorney Degra, just so that, you know, any of you, or actually there's more here in the back, if any of you have any questions about the intent of Quad and why we are doing this, and questioning if there are legislation that will be pushed after, during even the hearings, COMSEC, kindly forward this to Attorney Egl. And also, Attorney Degra, for your information, the chairmen serve as the principal authors to these House bills. With that being said, I just have a policy question. Kanina pa po, Mr. President, na babanggit tong pag bumunot, barilin. Tama po ba yun? Oh. Hindi po ba pwede, Mr. President, yung i-disable na lang kaysa patayin? Yung bang
Hindi,
barilin na muna sa paa, sa braso? Bakit kailangan
Sir,
patayin?
Pag bumunot yung tao na yung criminal sa harap mo, or even if not a criminal o nakalasing lang, pagka bumunot yung baril sir, papunta yung baril sa direksyon mo, you are in... sige lang kayo, sira ng plato dyan, maubusan tayo dito. Alam mo sir, pagka nakatutok yan sa katawan mo sir, that's the end of you.
Okay. No, I'm just curious.
Self-defense.
Yes. Thank you very much, former President. To Chel Jokno, Attorney Chel Jokno, meron po bang handbook or paano po ba dapat ginagawa ito? Di ba dapat maximum tolerance ang ini-implement?
Yes, Mr. Chair. It's very clear both in the PNP manuals as well as the UN regulations that the use of lethal force is only to be done as a last resort. Klarong-klaro po yan, paulit-ulit yan nakikita sa both sa PNP manuals at sa United Nations guidelines.
Thank you very much. Former Senator De Lima, before I recognize you, yung mga nanay po kasi ng mga biktima, magpapaalam na po sa atin. Kaya sa mga kinatawan at mga congressman na nandito, kung wala naman po tayong mga katanungan sa kanila, okay lang po ba na magpaalam na po yung mga nanay? Are you okay with that? Okay. But before they go, the chair will give you a minute or maybe 2 minutes each. Kung meron po kayong gustong sabihin bago po kayo umalis at umuwi sa inyong mga pamilya. Unahin po namin kay Ma'am Lori Pasco. Ma'am Lori?
Magandang gabi na po sa ating lahat. At bago po kami umuwi ay gusto naming magpasalamat sa committee na ito na nagbigay sa amin ng pagkakataon upang maipahayag namin kung ano yung aming saloobin at maikwento namin ang aming mga karanasan at kung ano yung nangyari sa aming mga mahal sa buhay. At yung mga panawagan po namin na sana po ay magkaroon talaga ng hustisya ang aming mga mahal sa buhay. At magkaroon po talaga ng masusing investigasyon. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat. At ang susunod ko naman pong kikilalanin ay si Mary Ann Domingo. Ma'am Mary Ann Domingo.
Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Una sa lahat, nagpapasalamat po kami. Kami mga biktima na naimbitahan po dito. At sana po, tuloy-tuloy po na matulungan niyo po kami na magkaroon ng hustisya. Ito po ay hindi lang para sa mga namatayan, kundi sa mga nanay, sa mga nangulila, na magkaroon ng dignidad, muli magkaroon ng karapatang pantao kaming lahat. Sana po matulungan niyo po kami na mabigyan ng hustisya kaming lahat. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Mrs. Domingo. At panghuli po, Ma'am Cristina Pascual.
Sa lahat po na nandito sa Congress, buong puso kami pong nagpapasalamat sa inyo na nararamdaman po namin na kasama namin po kayo sa nararamdaman naming bigat sa araw-araw po. Kaya po, wala po kami sawang nagpapasalamat po sa inyo. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Yes, ma'am. Pakipatay lang po yung mic pag hindi na po gamit. Yes, ma'am.
Maraming salamat po sa committee ito. Gusto rin po namin acknowledge ang iba pang mga pamilyang kasama namin. Nandito po sa likod. Sila Nanay Dalia.
Pwede po bang tumayo yung mga pamilya na nasa likod? Hindi po namin kayo nakilala kanina, kaya pasensya na po kayo. Pwede po kayong tumayo? Opo.
At ganun din po si Sister Lisa Ruedas, ang patuloy namin kasama sa paglalakbay. Si Nanay Sally, si Nanay Dalia, si Jane, at si Nanay Purisima. Sila po ang mga pamilyang 8 taon na pong naghahanap ng hustisya. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po at sa tiwala na ipinagkaloob niyo po sa Kongreso, sa Quadcom, at umasa po kayo na patuloy po natin hahanapin, maski mahirap man ang katotohanan, at hindi po tayo titigil upang mabigyan po ng hustisya ang maraming mga pamilyang nawalan. Kaya maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo sa oras at panahon. Senator De Lima, former Senator De Lima.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, for allowing me to make an intervention. I just wish to comment on 3 points tackled during the questioning of the Honorable Congressman Adyong and also the responses of the resource person, the former mayor, former president, to those questions. Number 1 is about the limited period of detention. So ang sabi po ng dating mayor, dating pangulo, under current realities, medyo hindi na ho ito sapat. So he is proposing amendment of the pertinent laws, particularly the revised Penal Code. Let me remind everybody po na hindi lang po ang batas ang kailangan nating i-amend. Kasi nandyan mismo yan sa saligang batas sa konstitusyon. Yung maximum period of 72 days as detention. Nandyan po yan. That's the maximum allowable period. Kaya yung tungkol nga po dun sa Anti-Terrorism Act, isa po sa naging issue, na ganun nga ho, na yung 24 days of detention na nakalagay dun sa Anti-Terrorism Act, hindi po tumutugma. And in fact, sobra dun sa sinasabing period of detention na pwede, but after that, dapat i-charge nyo na, hindi tumutugma doon sa provision of the Constitution. So kailangan ho natin, hindi lang batas, kung yun ho ang magiging posisyon ng Kongreso, ay dapat kailangan din i-amend ang Constitution. Pero syempre, hindi lang basta-basta dahil gustong i-amend, pag-isipan po ng husto yan. Kailangan mabalanse. What should be the exact position na talagang balanse na while upholding state interest in combating crime, palagi natin po dapat rin irespeto ang mga individual rights in the Bill of Rights. Second point, yung tungkol po sa study na nabanggit po ni Honorable Adjong. So it says that Davao City is among the safest. Let me point out po na yung study na yun, kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, crowdsourcing po yan. So it's not necessarily reliable, it's not scientific. Ang alam kong study na reliable and scientific, although nakalimutan ko na po kung anong eksaktong study yon, I can search my materials, I can review my materials, yung sinasabi na yung Davao City ay #1 ang sa murder, sa incidence of murder. At tumutugma po yan, consistent po yan, doon palaging sinasabi na pinapatay na lang kasi ang mga kriminal. Kaya, highest murder, but can you call that a safe city? Kasi yung murder, labag sa batas. Pwede bang safe ang isang lipunan kung basta na lang mga pinapatay na wala, na hindi dumadaan sa rule of law at wala nga tayong batas ngayon na kumikilala sa death penalty. So how can it be a safe city? Number 3, death penalty. Lagi po akong aalma kapag meron nagpro-propose ng death penalty. Pagkatapos naman kung mga anong insidente dahil nagkaroon ng mga high-profile heinous crimes, some would again propose death penalty. Kaya nga po yung sinasabi na yung sinabi hong listahan kanina ni Honorable Suarez, I actually support all of those. The policy recommendations, saka yung mga proposed bills, including the anti-EJK bill. I fully support those, except the one reimposing or seeking to restudy death penalty and eventually reimpose. Why? Number 1, alalahanin ho natin, baka nakakalimutan po natin na meron pong linagdaan ang Pilipinas na sinatawag na Second Optional Protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Nung pinirmahan ho natin yung Second Optional Protocol, we committed as a state party never to reimpose or restore death penalty. Nag-commit po tayo doon, nanumpa tayo na hindi na natin maiisip na i-reimpose ang death penalty. Now, isa pang rason kung bakit hindi ko talaga, never akong magsasang-ayon sa death penalty. Yung ating resource person, the former mayor, the former president, kasasabi lang po niya, yung justice system natin, insufficient, weak, inefficient, flawed, may mga diferensya pa ang ating criminal justice system. So kung ganun, dapat ayusin muna natin yung criminal justice system. Kasi pag ganyan na flawed, sigurado ako na magkakamali. May mga pagkakataon na magkakamali ang korte na mag-impose ng death penalty. Yung mga bansa nga, yung mga ibang jurisdictions na medyo advanced na yung kanilang criminal justice system, nagkakamali pa rin. There are really recorded, documented cases of erroneous convictions and erroneous executions. So tayo pa kaya? Na tayo na mismo ang nagsasabi, kulang pa, inefficient pa, flawed pa, weak ang ating justice system? And then lastly, marami na pong mga studies na ang death penalty is never a deterrent to the commission of crimes. So anong magiging silbi nun? Tama na lang po yung ang i-impose kapag mga hinos, mga malalaking kaso, mga murder cases o mga drug cases na mga malalaki, tama na lang pong reclusion perpetua. Basta dumaan sa tamang proseso. Basta maayos ang justice system na mabilis ang takbo ng mga kaso at mapanagot sila ng tama. So for those reasons, Your Honors, Mr. Chair, I register, as always, my position against any plan to reimpose death penalty. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, former Senator De Lima. Next on our list is Congressman Sendanya.
Mr. Chairman, may I just interject for...
First, is this a short interjection?
Yes, it's just in connection also with what Senator De Lima said and what Congressman Adjong...
With the permission of Congressman Sendanya. Make it short, please, former Senator Trillanes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect to Congressman Adjong, but he's working on the assumption that seryoso, honest to goodness yung war on drugs. As we found out and as what I presented a while ago, everything is a ruse. Lahat po yun ay pagpapanggap lang. Kaya nga hindi niya masagot yung mga justifications dahil drama lang nila yon. It's just a form of social control, matakot lahat, and it was very effective. Sinampulan si Senator De Lima, pinakulong na walang na fabricated charges, kaya wala na, kumaga umatras na lahat. So it was all about that. Pero titignan nyo what happened after. Yung grupo niya, yung sindikato niya, sila Michael Yang, sila Pulong, Charlie Tan, started importing illegal drugs through the front door sa customs. Pero ang ginawa nila nung una, a few months nung start ng administration niya, binabasag nila yung mga shabu laboratory everywhere with the projection na seryoso sila sa illegal drugs, pero mga kompetensya nila yon, yung local shabu manufacturers. So nung na-abolish na nila lahat, in-import na nila through the front door. Ngayon, magkano ang presyo nung shabu at that time nung kanila tumaas. So yung cartel nila ang nakinabang nung monopolization ng drug war. Kaya nga, sa galit niya, kunyari, sa pagpe-pretend niya ng galit siya sa illegal drugs, pero nung in-import yung 11 billion na shabu, yung 6.4 billion na shabu, then a few others na in-import, meron bang sinabihan si Duterte na kung sino yung drug lord behind it? Wala po. Tapos ito po yan. Sino po yung Customs Commissioner na nung time na yon? Si Faeldon sa 6.4, si La Peña nung 11 billion. 'Di ba? Pinadaan sa customs. Kung talagang galit na galit ka at hindi mo kasabwat yung nagpasok na yon, you should have hung these people kung talagang ganun siya magsalita eh. Pero anong ginawa po niya? Pre-promote niya. No? Pre-promote niya po ito. Prinoteksyonan niya kasi mga kasindikato niya. Then, here comes si Peter Lim, who was identified as one of the drug lords, pero same triad nila Michael Yang, kaya hindi nila mapatay, pinaalis na lang. No? Kunyari, nung nape-pressure, finailan po ng kaso, pero anong ginawa ho? Dinismiss. Despite the evidence. Tapos anong ginawa ho dun sa prosecutor na nag-dismiss? Pre-nomote na judge. We have documented all this. Kaya we followed yung sequence ho. Kaya hindi kami mabobola ng mga ganyang parang seryoso. At kaya ho maraming nalilito na parang talagang gusto niyang ayusin lang talaga yung illegal drugs. Pero hindi.
Former Senator Trillanes, yes.
Yes.
Can we just...
just one more point, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yeah.
Ito na lang po.
We're
Then,
going
Mr. Chairman,
off
if I may-
tangent from our discussion.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Congressman Fernandez.
Para to save time, no,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can we have the documents that na sinasabi mo a while ago? So, para lang po makuha namin yung lahat ng points that you have mentioned.
I already submitted to the COMSEC yung
When was this?
just today, yung nung
Okay.
present po.
Alright,
And,
thank you.
Kon po, yun po, as challenged earlier by Chairman Paduano, na pwede pong imbitahin yung AMLAC, but as I understand, hindi po exempted yung legislative inquiry because sinubukan na po namin yan. Pero exempted ang impeachment. So lalabas po yan eventually din. Pero yung ombudsman po, when they investigated this, they asked the AMLAC, kasi meron silang MOA ng exchange of information, nakuha nila yung mga dokumento na yon, kaya nga po na-validate yung aming mga dokumento. At ang magpapatotoo po nito, yung tinanggal sa pwesto na si Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang. You can also invite him. Pero ito po yan. Nakita nyo po kanina nung sinabi ni Chairman Suarez na kung pwede siyang pumirma, ano hong ginawa niya, nang gulo siya. No? Pero baka pwedeng ibalik natin dun sa issue na pipirma siya ng waiver. O baka ngayon, nagtutulog-tulugan naman ho. So, pwede po natin papirmahin ng waiver pa rin. Yes,
yeah, Senator Trillanes, we'll get to that item later. So I gave you your chance to speak, and I will now recognize Congressman Sindanya. Yes, Congressman Sindanya. Thank you.
May I interrupt?
Mr. Chairman.
Just one moment. I was not sleeping. I was praying
I hope
for his soul.
I hope I was included in your prayers, former President
Nagdarasal
Duterte.
po ako. Hindi ako nagtutulog.
Okay. Yes, Chairman Paduano.
Mr. Chairman, since former Senator Trillanes has mentioned about the authenticity of such, and you mentioned the name of former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we will invite former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang on the next hearing, Mr. Chairman. So move, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion that we
Second.
invite former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang. Any second? Duly seconded. Any objection? There being none, motion's approved. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I was informed by the COMSEC that the documents that this representation is asking is not a document. It's a video.
No. This is the presentation. We got the same one. We can have it reprinted, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, with the permission of Chairman Dan.
We will give it.
Let's recognize Congressman Sindanya, and then we'll move to the next matter because he has been patiently waiting for his turn. Kaninang umaga pa yan nandito, so pagbigyan muna natin. Congressman Sindanya, bagong upo po itong kinatawan ng kanyang party list. So, of course, you have 10 minutes. You may proceed.
Magandang gabi po, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Totoo po yun, kanina umaga pa, walang tayuan, walang kain. Pero chill lang muna po tayo in the pursuit of truth. I'd like to begin with a short manifestation on the issue of the death penalty. I have to put on record that Akbayan maintains that this is an anti-poor measure. Alam naman po natin na ang karamihan, if not all, ng nasa death row ay laging puro mahihirap dahil hindi nila afford ang mahusay na abogado. Which calls to mind yung mga biktima ng EJK na karamihan ay mahihirap. Kaya nga po marami nagsasabi that the war on drugs is a war on the poor. Since this morning, I was intently listening to the former president. At nung umaga po, during the first interpellation, nabanggit ninyo na kayo mismo ay nagugulat na sa dami ng pinatay at inutusan yung pumatay, pero wala pang kaso laban sa inyo. Bakit po kaya ganon, Mr. Former President?
Ewan ko, sir. Ikaw lang makasagot niyan.
Marami pong salamat for responding, Mr. Former President. I'll now go to my questions, beginning with, earlier you have reiterated quite often that you will cooperate. Papayag po kayong maimbestiga at magpaimbestiga sa ICC. Is that right, Mr. President?
Matagal ko na silang hinintay, sir. Ako nga ang lilipad na doon kung may pera lang. Sa totoo lang.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Former President, the second question is, doon po sa investigasyon na ito sa ICC, papangalanan niyo po ba ang mga miyembro ng Davao Death Squad?
Former President, yes?
Ako yun, sir.
Yes. Your response? Can you turn the mic on, please?
Sorry.
Thank you.
DDS? Sila lang man nagawa ng Davao Death Squad. DDS means Davao Development System. That's the correct term. You are abusing the phrase to the detriment of my city. Wala na tuloy pumupunta doon.
Still on the issue, Mr. Chair, willing po ba kayo na doon sa investigasyon na yon sa ICC na pangalanan ang mga biktima ng pagpatay sa Davao ng DDS, however you call it, simula nung kayo ay mayor hanggang sa kayo po ay maging presidente?
Hindi ako gumagawa ng listahan, sir, kung sino ang namatay. You have to go to the register of what's it? Civil registrar. At maybe sa police. Huwag ho sa akin, hindi ako bookkeeper para sa namatay ng mga tao.
Next question, Mr. Chair, Mr. Former President, willing po ba kayo na doon sa investigasyon na yon magsalita tungkol sa paggamit nyo sa PNP bilang inyong death squad through the reward system?
Yes, I will answer questions about DDS, but I have never said that I am willing to admit the existence of DDS to kill people.
In that investigation, Mr. Chair, Mr. Former President of the ICC, willing po ba kayong banggitin kung sino-sino ang nasa drug war at a drug war watch list ng Malacanang at ng police?
Magalit pa ako, sir, kung hindi nila gamitin. Totoo lang. I would be totally disappointed kung hindi nila gamitin yung listahan kung nasaan yan. And the people that they think could shed a light to the extrajudicial killing that happened in this country.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Former President, dahil willing kayo magpaimbestiga, naniniwala po ba kayo na kayo ay entitled to due process?
Natural.
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, bilang akusado, naniniwala po ba kayo na you and your co-accused deserve a fair day in court?
I am not an accused, and whoever you are pointing to as the other accused. So I cannot answer your question intelligently.
Mr. Chair, for an intelligent answer to the question, perhaps I'd like to direct this question to Attorney Chel Jokno. Attorney Chel, ano po ang rights of the accused sa ICC?
Parehas lang po sa mga karapatan ng isang akusado dito sa atin. The right to fair trial, the right to due process of law, the right to remain silent, the right against self-incrimination, the right to confront witnesses and cross-examine them. Halos magkatumbas po yan.
So kung magkatumbas po, kasama po dito, Mr. Chair, Mr. Attorney Jokno, yung they are innocent until proven guilty.
Yes, the presumption of innocence also, yes.
Thank you very much, Attorney Jokno. I'd like to end this very quick round of questions with this short manifestation, a reflection perhaps. Medyo nakakabagabag po na yung mga biktima ng EJK ay hindi na-afford nung parehong treatment na makukuha ng mga kakasuhan at kinasuhan sa ICC. Hindi po ito in-afford sa lahat ng pinatukhang, lahat ng nasa watch list. Hindi man lang nakatapak sa korte, hindi nagkaroon ng fair day in court. Nahatulan agad at nahatulan ng guilty. Ito pong mga makakasuhan po, I'm not yet done, Mr. Former President, Mr. Chair. Napakaswerte po. Should the former President face the ICC na hindi niya mararanasan ito dahil makakaranas siya doon ng due process na ipinagkait sa mga biktima ng tukhang at extrajudicial killings. That would be all, Mr. Chair. As promised, I will not consume my time.
I will respond by saying, sir, that I'm waiting for the warrant of arrest of the ICC at saan ba, sa Hague ba yan? Hindi pa ako nakapunta doon. Libre yan. Baski nag-handcuff ako, I would be very willing to go there. Anytime. Totoo yan. Sa edad ko na ito, I'd rather spend my time. Maganda ang prisuhan doon, sir, komportable. Doon na lang ako magtapos ng buhay ko.
Thank you very much, Congressman Sindanya. Next on the list, Congressman Bongalon. Congressman Jill Bongalon. Because Congressman Sindanya did not exhaust his allotted time, I will pass the time to you. So you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening to everyone. Magandang gabi po, former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, and to all other resource persons. Let's talk about the International Criminal Court. And I guess we have resource persons who are lawyers for the victims of the EG case. And I would like to direct my questions to the lawyers. Based from my understanding, Mr. Chair, the jurisdiction or the general mission of the ICC is to investigate and, if warranted, prosecute individuals who are charged with heinous crimes such as war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. Would that be correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, including a fourth crime, crimes of aggression. So these are the only 4 types of crimes tried before the ICC.
Yes, and that includes crimes of aggression. And later on, nakuha po yung attention ko doon po sa opening statement ninyo, Attorney Conti, na merong hong kaso ngayon, no, ang biktima nitong EGK at nasa ICC na po ito. Tama po?
That is correct. The preliminary examination was opened February 2018, and the investigation was granted June 2021.
Before I go on the details of the case, would you care to update us what is the status of this case before the ICC?
So the status of the case at present, Your Honor, would be it's at the investigation stage. Bale po, yung sa atin po kasi ang kilala natin ay preliminary investigation. And there are 2 questions. One, what is the crime committed? And second, who is the perpetrator? Sa ICC po, sa preliminary examination, ang tinalakay na ay meron bang crimes against humanity na ginawa sa Pilipinas? Meron. Kaya nasa second stage na po tayo, who is most responsible or who are most responsible for these crimes against humanity. The ICC is in the process of determining these people so that they can issue either summons or warrants of arrest before trial can begin.
You mentioned a while ago that it was already determined that there is a crime against humanity
And you are referring to the war on drugs.
Yes,
Is
Your
that
Honor.
correct?
Yes, Your Honor. The ICC opened the investigation upon the request of the Office of the Prosecutor, approving the request because they believe that there is reasonable basis to believe that crimes against humanity were committed in the Philippines within the scope of November 2011 to about June 2016, murders and other inhumane acts which happened in Davao City, and from July 2016 to March 2019 nationwide. So that is the scope of the investigation, temporal and geographic.
Part of your statement earlier, you mentioned that we charge him as liable for heinous crimes. Heinous crimes. He is liable for conspiracy because of the institution of a state policy to neutralize whomever he identified as so-called enemies of the state under the guise of anti-criminality.
Yes,
Would you
Your Honor.
care to explain and expound this statement?
Your Honor, actually, part of that is derived, in fact, from ICC documents, both from the OTP, or the Office of the Prosecutor request to open the investigation, and the decision agreeing to such. This conspiracy says that the killings were premeditated murders. Ang lumalabas po, kung magre-refer po ako sa sinabi kanina ng isa pong resource person, si Senator Trillanes, the war on drugs was a ruse. Nabanggit ko rin po na hindi naman naging quote-unquote talagang gera, kundi naging massacre ng mahihirap. Ang kinalabasan po, gagawa ng kumbaga enemy. Ang kalaban daw ay droga, at under that, mag-ooperasyon. Sa ilalim ng mga operasyon, nagkaroon po ng planting of evidence, fabrication of evidence, para mabuo yung itsura na parang may nangyayari sa war on drugs. Pero po sa totoo, ito po ay mga patayan na talagang isinagawa para lang iswak doon sa operations. Kung ididikit ko din po doon sa dati na nating na bulatlat, pati po mga politically motivated crimes or politically motivated murders, dito na rin ipinasok sa quote-unquote war on drugs.
Earlier, we had a discussion that it was mentioned that guilt is personal. And as a lawyer, I understand that if we go about with the provisions of the revised penal code, Title 2, which refers to the persons who are criminal liable for felonies, yung Article 16 nang sinasabi doon, yung mga principal, accomplices, and accessories. And yung Article 17, sinasabi po doon yung tatlong klase ng principals. Principal by direct participation, principal by inducement, and principal by indispensable cooperation. Yung principal by direct participation, that is what we are referring to, guilt which is personal. And you mentioned a while ago that you are charging the former president because of the conspiracy. And also, he is liable as principal by inducement or principal by indispensable cooperation. Would you care to expound and explain this, Attorney Conti?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Chair, I would like to just clarify also that when you say guilt is personal, it doesn't mean that you have to be on site. You don't have to be the one who pulled the trigger. When you say guilt is personal, it means that you participated in some way or another in the commission of the crime. And when you planned or masterminded a crime, that is guilt that is personal as well. And so the participation of someone by inducement, nagbigay ka ng reward, sinabi mo, gawin mo ito, babayaran kita, that is inducement. By indispensable cooperation, bubuksan ko yung pintuan, gagawa ako ng policy para makapatay ka. At pagkatapos niyan, sisiguraduhin kong hindi ka mapaparusahan o maiimbestigahan. That could be principal by indispensable cooperation.
And a while ago, again, going back to the issue or topic of conspiracy, basically conspiracy means the act of one is the act of all. And how would you allege that the act of these law enforcers will also charge the former president for the victims of these extrajudicial killings?
Well, one, Your Honor, the character itself of crimes against humanity says that this is widespread and systematic killings. At ibig sabihin po ay may sistema na inilagay ang isang nakatataas na opisyales. Usually ay nasa gobyerno para utusan yung mga papatay, kumbaga. At pangalawa, ang konsepto po kasi ng conspiracy ay nag-usap-usap kayo, pinagplanuhan. At kung mai-establish ng ICC, and we believe so, kung mai-establish ng ICC na yung mga patayan ay konektado lahat sa war on drugs, konektado nun sa directives ni Duterte, maituturing po itong conspiracy o pinag-usapan. In fact, Your Honor, when we go back to the concept of negation and neutralization, the policy says so. And we can pull up a lot of police reports where the police would say, oh, we neutralized the suspect. And it is clearly they fatally shot the suspect. Meaning, sinabi mo po na ganito, and this is how it was interpreted on the ground. Yung pong mga police report, klaro ang sinasabi, when you neutralize, you kill that person.
So basically, in layman's term po, Attorney Conti, because of the policy on the war on drugs of former President Duterte, and that is being implemented by the law enforcers, ibig sabihin, they can all be charged for the crimes against humanity because of that policy and implemented by these law enforcers.
A clarification, Your Honor, in crimes against humanity, and if this is charged before the International Criminal Court, they will only haul to court the most responsible, those who bear the greatest responsibility.
And in this case, Attorney Conti, who appeared to be the most responsible?
Clearly, the most responsible for crimes against humanity in the Philippines, in the acts of murder and other inhumane acts, would be none other than President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. That would include some other lower officials, perhaps Senator Bato de la Rosa, who also served as the chief of police during that time.
Are you familiar of the Senate inquiry that was conducted a week ago?
Yes, was it a week ago? I think so. This is the Senate inquiry also on they call it the Philippine War on Illegal Drugs.
And later on, and I'm sorry, and a while ago, we also heard the former president reiterated his statement in which he said that I take full legal responsibility on the policy and the implementation of the war on drugs. Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I also heard him say that he would also like to bear the responsibility for the consequences, legal and illegal.
With that statement, matutulungan po ba kayo at yung mga biktima o pamilya ng biktima nitong EGK doon sa kaso sa ICC?
To some extent, Your Honor, yes. Mr. Chair, the admissions before the legislative bodies in the Philippines could serve well in the investigation where they are determining who is most responsible. Ito na nga po, ang tanong nila, sinong may kasalanan, may umaamin. But moving forward into trial, there would be some sort of processes before these statements could be taken as evidence, but it's just a matter of procedure. Pwede pong gamitin ng mga sinabi ni Duterte dito at sa Senado sa pagbubukas po ng trial sa ICC at sa kahit na ano pa man pong korte.
I've seen one of your interviews in the television, and yet you are hopeful that before the 2024 ends, a warrant of arrest will be issued by the International Criminal Court. Inaasahan niyo po ba talaga na lumabas bago matapos ang taon ngayon?
Well, yes, Your Honor. But of course, there are processes with the ICC that are out of our control.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to share and inform everyone that earlier today, the Executive Secretary, former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin, stated that if the former president desires to surrender himself to the jurisdiction of the ICC, the government will neither object to it nor move to block the fulfillment of his desire. Can we ask the reaction or the comment of the lawyers of the victims?
It would be nice to do that, sir, but they do not have any
I think, Mr.
jurisdiction.
Chair, if
Tandaan
there's a
mo yan.
question with regards to the ICC, the interpretation of the statement of the Executive Secretary is that if the ICC will issue a warrant of arrest and the Interpol is going to execute the warrant of arrest, the Philippine government, the Marcos administration, will not object to it and will allow the serving of the search warrant against President Duterte or whoever is the subject of such search warrant, Mr. Chair.
Yes, I fully agree, Attorney Colmenares. And in fact, that is what is stated in the second paragraph of the statement issued by the Executive Secretary, which I quote, "But if the ICC refers the process to Interpol, which may then transmit a red notice to the Philippine authorities, the government will feel obliged to consider the red notice as a request to be honored, in which case the domestic law enforcement agencies shall be bound to accord full cooperation to Interpol pursuant to established protocols." So before I would elicit your comment or reaction, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask the comment of our former President Duterte about this issuance of the Executive Secretary.
I'm happy with the narration of whatever it says there is. Ang problema, walang jurisdiction. Bigyan mo muna ako ng jurisdiction before anything else. Before you move, jurisdiction muna. May jurisdiction ba sila?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask the lawyers from
Yes.
the NUPL, or probably Attorney Jokno can also explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The ICC has jurisdiction. When we signed the Rome Statute, it was stated there, Article 127, that the ICC continues to have jurisdiction even if a country has withdrawn, if the proceedings have been instituted before the effectivity of the withdrawal. So 2017, na-file ang kaso originally, and then 2018, ito namang sa Rise Up Mga Pamilya, effectively March of 2019, ang withdrawal ng Pilipinas. So it has been, it has jurisdiction under Article 127. Bakit nilagay sa ICC yon? Kasi Mr. Chair, pag wala yon sa ICC, ang gagawin na lang ng mga presidente at mga prime minister, pag may kaso sila sa ICC, magwi-withdraw lang sila, wala nang mangyayari. Pero nilagay ng ICC yun na pag nasimulan na ang investigasyon, bago maging effective ang withdrawal mo, the ICC has jurisdiction. The second point, Mr. Chair, is this. Doon sa ICC, mayroong complementarity clause. Ang nakalagay sa ICC complementarity clause is precisely this. If the person is being investigated or prosecuted sa bansa na kung saan siya, then ICC genuinely investigated or prosecuted, then the ICC will not admit the case. Inadmissible siya. Ngayon, ang tanong, may kaso ba o investigasyon o prosecution ang mga akusado sa ICC? Answer, no. So therefore, hindi magti-trigger ang complementarity. And of course, nabanggit kanina, Mr. Chair, may admission mismo si dating Presidente Duterte na ang mga korte natin dito ay ineffective, inefficient. Talagang magagamit po yan, Mr. Chair, sa ICC because the ICC also has a phrase na pag sinabi niya, kahit pa kinasuhan ka sa Pilipinas, pero ito ay inability or unwillingness, ibig sabihin, hindi makadeliver ng accountability, then the ICC continues to have jurisdiction. So the ICC has jurisdiction because of those terms, Mr. Chair. And last point na lang, Mr. Chair. Pag pumirma tayo ng kontrata, we subtract something from our sovereignty. When we signed the protocols with the Interpol, na pag may siniserve kayo dito na warrant of arrest, susundin namin yan. That's part of our giving up a part of our sovereignty doon sa ganyang klase na obligasyon. The same din sa ICC. At hindi maganda, Mr. Chair, na pag sakali hindi i-fulfill ng Philippine government ang pinirmahan niya sa Rome Statute many years ago, ang sabihin ng international community, hindi pala kayo mapagkatiwalaan eh. Pirma kayo ng pirma ng kontrata, pero pag-alanganin na o treaty, pag-alanganin na atras kayo. So it is also to the interest of the Philippine government na i-fulfill ang obligasyon sa ICC precisely because we have committed ourselves to do our obligation. So in any case, Mr. Chair, the ICC has jurisdiction, and we are supposedly bound dapat to implement that jurisdiction, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, is it correct to assume that the subject matter of the case before the ICC or the crimes that we are referring to are crimes committed before the withdrawal? Is
Yes,
that correct?
Mr. Chair. That is correct, Mr. Chair.
If I may add, Mr. Chair and Your Honors, that was one of the issues taken up by the pretrial chambers. Ito na po yung court ng International Criminal Court when it granted the request of the prosecutor to conduct a formal investigation. In September 15, 2021, sa isang written decision ng pretrial chamber, they found, number one, that there was reasonable basis to proceed with the investigation, and number two, that the case falls within the court's jurisdiction. Hindi po nila papayagan ang prosecutor na mag-imbestiga sa isang kaso kung wala naman jurisdiction ang ICC. Kung ganun po, dapat matagal na nilang dinismiss ang kaso. It's very clear under the rulings of the ICC as well as the Rome Statute, which is the treaty that the Philippines ratified, that that jurisdiction exists.
Mr. Chair, nais ko rin pong magdagdag dun sa mga sinabi nila Attorney Nery Colmenares and Attorney Chel Jokno. Bukod po sa Rome Statute itself, bukod po sa pronouncement ng pretrial chamber ng ICC, ang mismong Korte Suprema natin, in the 2021 case of Pangilinan versus Cayetano, I quote from the decision penned by Senior Associate Justice Marvic Leonen. What is the effect of withdrawal? Yun po ang issue na sinagot dun sa ruling na yun. Withdrawing from the Rome Statute does not discharge a state party from the obligations it has incurred. Then the Supreme Court proceeded to say, a state shall not be discharged by reason of its withdrawal from the obligations arising from the statute while it was a party. Its withdrawal shall not affect any cooperation with the court in connection with criminal investigations and proceedings in relation to which the withdrawing state had a duty to cooperate and which were commenced prior to the date on which the withdrawal became effective. So malinaw, kahit nag-withdraw na, dun sa mga alleged crimes against humanity committed within the period of 2016 to 2019, I'm sorry, 2011, may I correct myself, 2011 to 2019. Yung 2011, yun po ang date na rinatify ng Senado yung Rome Statute, na naging officially member state tayo ng Rome Statute. Yung 2019 naman ay yung date na naging effective yung withdrawal. Kasi winidraw po tayo ng dating Pangulong Duterte sa Rome Statute noong March 2018. So 1 year after that, March 2019, naging effective yung withdrawal. Nakasabi, malinaw talaga yan sa Rome Statute, na habang miyembro ka, meron kang obligasyon to cooperate kung ano man yung mga proceedings. So miyembro pa tayo from 2011 to 2019, kaya pwede pa na mag-imbestiga ang ICC. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you for
Your
that.
Honor, may may I be given a chance to respond. Marami na masyadong tao ang sasagsalita against me. At least give me also only one person to, my lawyer, to give his piece of the legal issues involved. To be fair.
With the indulgence of the members of the committee, we will allow the lawyer of the former president to speak before the Quad. But Attorney Medjaldea, please be reminded that the time will be limited.
Yes,
So you are given 5 minutes.
This will be very short, sir. Ma'am, we withdrew from the statute in 2018, right? Secretary de Lima?
March 2018, so 1 year after
Yes.
that is the effectivity.
1 year after that. And under that provision, we were given a period of 1 year within which to conduct our investigations, right?
Opo?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Point of order.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, let me remind the resource person, former Secretary Vildia, you cannot ask question to a fellow resource person. If you want to ask question, you course through it to another member of this committee. Please refrain and can you rephrase your point or you can manifest your position?
Under the statute, Mr. Chairman, we had a period of 1 year. The ICC had a period within a period of 1 year to conduct the investigation. The fact is there was no investigation ever conducted, right? Okay, so that's for you to. Second, there was a decision rendered by the ICC in 2021. It was a decision wherein 3 of the justices said that the investigation should proceed, while 2 others dissented.
It's still a decision.
The 2 of those who dissented mentioned that we could no longer proceed with this because there is no longer any jurisdiction on the part of ICC. They were outvoted. But did the 3 however, the 3 did not take note of the jurisdiction, did not issue on the issue of jurisdiction. I think we should review the decision on that, sir. I think there is a misrepresentation. There was no mention about any jurisdiction.
If they had no jurisdiction, how could they rule?
They had no jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
How could they rule then?
Mr. Chair?
Okay, we don't want this to become a debate among the resource persons. There was a question raised by Congressman.
Sir, can I just be, hindi ko lang maano because unang-una ho, nagkaroon ng desisyon ang ICC 3 and 2, okay? 2 dissented, saying that we no longer have any jurisdiction over this case. The 3 others rendered the decision saying that the investigation should proceed, but never touch on the issue of jurisdiction. So up to this point in time, Mr. Chairman, we submit that there is still no jurisdiction which has been ruled upon by the ICC. That's why up to now, they cannot even move here.
Okay, thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman,
Thank you, Attorney Medjaldea. Does that satisfy Congressman Bungalon?
Yes, I would like to thank our resource persons for giving us the explanation on the issue of jurisdiction. And anyway, Mr. Chair, to end the discussion on the jurisdiction, probably we can just ask one explanation from the lawyers and one explanation from the counsel of former President Duterte, and then I'll shift to another issue, Mr. Chair, just to settle everything about jurisdiction. Anyway, what is clear right now is that there is an ongoing investigation with the ICC, and we cannot settle that issue here in the Quadcom hearing, Mr.
Mr. Chairman.
That is correct.
Mr. Chair.
Attorney Mejaldea has already stated that there was no jurisdiction, if I understood it correctly. And what you're saying, Congressman Bongalon, is that you will ask another lawyer to dispute the fact that the statement made by Attorney Mejaldea is not true. Is that what you mean?
Because when the former executive secretary was explaining, I guess Attorney Nery Colmenares would like to answer in response to the statement made. And after giving Attorney Colmenares a chance to explain, then we will also give another chance. And that would be the end, Mr. Chair, on the issue of jurisdiction.
Okay, if that is the agreement of the members of the committee, then the chair will allow our resource persons to reply to the questions raised by Congressman Bongalon.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
Why are we even discussing this ICC issue? I think mas meron pong mga importante that need to be settled. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, maraming different views ang members. Like for example, ako, talagang we have the pronouncement that let the ICC get the documents from us. Hindi po para i-discuss natin yung mga bagay na ito dito sa Quadcom. We have agreed that let the ICC do their thing and we will do our thing as well, Mr. Chairman. So I believe we stop this discussion about ICC, Mr. Chairman.
In fairness to Congressman Bongalon, he has the floor. Congressman Fernandez. And 1 minute suspension as requested by the Vice President. Hearing is resumed. So earlier, before we suspended, there was a question raised by Congressman Bongalon, where the former executive secretary has replied and has stated his reply as the ICC has no jurisdiction. And in order to be fair, we'd like to get likewise the side of the lawyers who may probably dispute the statement made by the former executive secretary. And after that, we will again give the former executive secretary the opportunity to again reply. To be fair, yan po ang ating ano. So at this point, you may ask the question, Congressman Bongalon, to whoever you want among the resource persons to reply.
We just want to hear the comment of Attorney Colmenares and then...
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Short lang actually to. Una muna, Mr. Chair. It's not true that there is any section in the Rome Statute that says that the prosecutor has to investigate within 1 year. There is no such rule, Mr. Chair, and probably the Honorable Executive Secretary is mistaken in the reading of the Rome Statute. Second, Mr. Chair, the decision of the pretrial chamber is that the investigation should continue. At klaro naman, Mr. Chair, na ang desisyon doon ay hindi nagsabi na hindi kami tutuloy, walang jurisdiction. The Executive Secretary is citing the dissenting opinion, but we all know that the ruling of the majority is the case. So even if may nag-dissent doon, the fact is that the ICC has decided. So basically, the investigation continues, may jurisdiction ng ICC, and if the former president gusto niyang i-challenge yun, then he can always go to the ICC and file a motion. But as long as the decision stays, and the investigation is continuing, and we are hoping that it will end before the end of this year, and sana may warrant of arrest, and then President Duterte will probably be the first Asian to be
Okay.
tried in the ICC. Salamat po.
Thank you, Attorney Colmenares. Before that, Mr. President, if you would like to rest.
I'm sorry, I was talking to my daughter.
Yes, Mr. President, if you'd like to rest, we can excuse you.
No, no, sir. I am willing to sit here and testify until probably 2 o'clock in the morning. Hindi ako nagbibiro. Kung
Sir.
gusto ninyo, gabain ninyo ang alas 6.
1 minute suspension.
Nag-approach.
And sila ang magpahinga, hindi ako. I come from a faraway place. It's expensive to travel. Let us have a continuous hearing, maybe 5-10 days. And each hearing hanggang ako, I'm good until 2 in the morning. I demand that kind of, kasi probinsyano po ako, hindi naman ako mayaman. Every time that I am summoned here, it's a expense. Hotel, pati aeroplano. Ngayon kung magsige tayo dito pa, ganon, mamuluwi ako. I am living on my retirement pay. Wala akong negosyo. Tanungin mo kahit sino sa Davao. Wala akong outside source except my retirement pay. Ngayon, kung ganito tayo palagi, mamamlubi talaga ako. So, mabuti pa, diretso tayo until kingdom come, until this committee will come to a logical and right decision. Hindi pwede yung magpatawag ng kayo ng ano-ano tapos anong oras. Expensive yan eh. Lalo na sa, mabuti kung mayaman kami. And we have to spend for the hotel. Well, anong
Hearing is resumed. Mr. President, inaalala lang po namin ang inyong health. Dahil ito naman po ay hindi pa ho, ito ang una't huling hearing na gagawin natin. And we wanted to make sure na kayo po ay healthy.
It would be great for the people to know that I died in your...
Mr. President, in deference also with the request of the Vice President, concern lang po siya sa kalusugan po ninyo. And that's the reason why the chairman decided to let you go.
Vice President lang naman, di ba siya presidente? Hintay siya kung presidente siya, maniwala tayo.
So are you okay? And can we proceed, Mr. President?
Until kingdom come.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
Now, the parliamentary status is that before we went on break, Congressman Jill Bungalon has asked a question to the lawyers who are present and our resource persons as well. Now, you can continue, Congressman Bungalon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm already, let's end with the discussion of the jurisdiction. I just would like to ask some questions to one of the resource persons, former Senator Antonio Trillanes. Regarding po ito dun sa nabanggit ni Congressman Bong Tebes kanina, na may na-file daw ho kayong kaso laban kay former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, including his son, Congressman Pulong Duterte, and his son-in-law, Mans Carpio, and other respondents. Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang po malaman kung ano yung kaso na i-file po ni former Senator Trillanes.
Mr. Chairman, ang na-file ko na case laban kay Duterte ay tatlong plunder cases. Yung una, tungkol doon sa mga ghost employees at mga confidential funds niya sa Davao. Tapos pangalawa, yung frigate scam na 16 billion na kung saan ang binigay nila ng mga equipment ay yung mga segunda klase, whereas doon sa kontrata, mga primera klase yung nakalagay. Tapos pangatlo, yung 6.6 billion pesos na infrastructure projects na binigay ni Duterte at ni Bongo doon sa tatay at kapatid ni Bongo, starting nung mayor siya until nagpresidente siya. Then, may final din ako na illegal drug smuggling case laban kay Pulong Duterte, kay Mans Carpio, kay Charlie Tan, Nicanor Faildon, Allen Capuyan, at iba pa. Ito yung tungkol sa 6.4 billion peso shabu na hinayaan lang nung presidenteng galit daw sa illegal na droga, pero ang mga kinasuhan lang yung mga maliliit na players at na-spare yung mga drug lords.
Mr. Chair, pwede ho ba malaman kay former Senator Trillanes kung saan nyo po i-final yung mga kasong ito?
Final ko po sa DOJ itong illegal drug trading case. Yun pong unang plunder case na ito nga, which included the illegal ill-gotten wealth of Duterte, sa ano po yan, sa ombudsman. Then, yung dalawang plunder ay nandoon din po sa DOJ na file. Apo.
Mr. Chair, I am more particular on the case that you just have recently filed,
Yes.
the 6.4 million shabu, and that was filed before the Department of Justice, correct?
Opo, yes, Mr.
And
Chairman.
may we know, Mr. Chair, what is the status of this case pending before the DOJ?
Ngayon po, nasa case build-up stage siya. Pero ano po ito, no? Open and shut case ito dahil yung ibang involved dito na akusado ay actually na-convict. So they will just be using the same set of evidence. Pero this time, it will include ito na mga ibang mga personalities na hindi nasama dun sa unang kaso, Mr. Chairman.
And aside from
Mr.
Congressman...
Chair, may I interrupt? If this is an open and shut case, why is there a build-up until now?
Dahil...
Nagmamakawa ako sa Diyos na i-file na. Dispense with the investigation, file the case in court.
Darating po tayo dyan, Mr. Chairman. Pero ito po, no? Buti nga yung anak niya na drug lord at saka yung ano niya, son-in-law
That
ay...
would be, I take exception to that statement, Mr. Chair.
Please...
It is not fair and
it's my opinion. It's my opinion. Ikaw nga, pinapapatay mo yung mga suspected.
Session suspended.
Wala ka na. Ano?
Oh. Sani.
Pinapagalit eh.
Sani. Huwag kang mag-arte rito ng ganyan. You do not provide.
Please avoid calling names. We can conduct this hearing professionally and calmly. So avoid calling names para hindi po tayo magkaroon ng sakitan. Hearing is resumed. Congressman Bongalon.
Mr. Chair, may I continue with my interpellations? Mr. Chair, with regard to this case filed and pending before the Department of Justice, I just would like to ask the complainant, former Senator Trillanes, I think it is safe to assume that before you filed the case, you conducted your research. Would that be correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Doon pa lang sa Senado, nag-imbestiga na po kami. At lahat po ng nakalap namin na impormasyon doon, plus yung mga ginamit ng prosecution sa paglilitis ng kaso, yun po ang included. At maliwanag po yun, no? Yun namang pagka-label ko po ng drug lord. That is my assessment po, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect dun sa mga members ng committee, there is no other skirting around the fact. Kasi po, nung sila, maliwanag po dun sa testigo, yung testimonya ng testigo, kinokontrol ang gatekeepers at that time ng mga kontrabando ay si Mans Carpio at si Pulong Duterte. At nakalagay po yon on record sa Senate investigations at doon sa court hearings. Then, ito nga po, no? Hindi sila sinama nung final sa kaso by some miracle, ang in-include lang yung mga minor players. Ngayon, yun nga po yung sinasabi ko simulat sa pool, kasi po kung talagang seryoso tayo dun sa paglilinis ng ating bayan ng illegal drugs, dapat hahanapin mo yung mastermind. Sino yung pinakang drug lord na nag-import nito? At yun nga po, ang natumbok namin, si Pulong Duterte. In fact, nung Senate hearing, sinabi ko nga na miyembro ng triad si Pulong at yung proof nun ay yung dragon tattoo sa likod niya, which is the mark of a triad member, and I challenged him. Sabi ko kung pwede siyang ipakita ron at kahit na dun lang siya sa isang secluded room at makuha ng Sergeant at Arms, edi either mapoprove or disapprove. Kung prove or disprove. At doon nga po, tinanggihan niya. No? It was an opportunity to show the whole country na hindi lang inosente siya, na kundi mali yung aking mga impormasyon. So natumbok na namin yun noon, pero nung final yung kaso, tinanggal po yung anak, si Pulong. Opo.
To continue, Mr. Chair.
You have last 2 minutes, Congressman Bungalon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just wrap up my questions. To continue, you conducted that Senate investigation in 2017. And what was the outcome of that investigation?
Yun nga po, no? Dahil na whitewash po nung mga panahon na yon, kasi yung chairman ng committee noon ay kaalyado nito ni Duterte, kaya wala pong nahantungan. Tapos nung final po sa DOJ yon, yung kaso na yon, dahil nakatingin na po yung buong Pilipinas at nakuha talaga yung 6.4 billion shabu, so kailangan po may mananagot. Pero ang mga nanagot ay yung mga nasa ibaba lang. Ni nga pangalan lang nung drug lord na nasa likod ng importation na yon, ni hindi po mini-mention nung mga PIDEA or nito ni Duterte para lang pakita kung sino yung nasa likod nun. Kaso he was not interested precisely because kagrupo niya. Isa na doon yung anak niya. Yun po yun.
Mr. Chair, a while ago you mentioned the name of Michael Yang.
Yes.
Is he a respondent to this case?
Doon po yan sa Jimmy Guban case. Dalawa po kasi, yung 11 billion na yung shabu shipment na yon. Ang sabi ni Jimmy Guban, base doon sa testimonya niya dito, doon po involved si Michael Yang, Pulong again, and Mans Carpio. Pero doon po, dito sa 6.4 billion pesos shabu, ang lumabas po si Charlie Tan, ang drug lord associate na kasama nila. And lahat po to lumabas po dun sa testimonya ni Arturo Las Cañas. These are the names: Michael Yang, Sami Uy, at Charlie Tan. Sila po yung mga kakagrupo ng drug lords na kapartner at pinoproteksyonan ni Duterte.
For my last question, Mr. Chair, you also mentioned a while ago the word triad.
Yes.
Ano ho ba itong triad nito at ano ang partisipasyon nitong triad nito sa sinasabi niyo pong 6.4 million na shabu at yun yung basis nyo ng pag-file ng kaso laban ho sa mga respondents dito sa kasong ito?
Base po sa testimonya ni Las Cañas, miyembro po ng triad si Charlie Tan at Michael Yang at ni-recruit nila si Pulong. So yun po ang triad. Ito po yung mga grupo na involved sa mga illegal activities na based sa mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau, Mr. Chairman.
Your Honor,
That would be my last question, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
interrupt.
Thank you, Congressman Bongalon. Mr. President, you'd like to say something?
There are so many persons accused here or mentioned to be criminals. Criminal yung ano. In fairness, yung mga tao na sinasabi nito, dapat ipatawag. At given a chance also to answer.
Yes, we will. In fact, we invited them in the
That
last
is,
two hearings.
This is how it operates, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Fairness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, the next to interpolate is Congressman Paulo Ortega, and then Congressman Suwan, and then Congressman Lara, and then Congressman Acop, and Congressman Garin. So, yun ho ang ating order para hindi ho kayo malito. So, Congressman Ortega, you are recognized.
Chair, I will yield my time to Congressman Suwan since I was given a 9-minute interjection earlier. Thank you.
So, you're yielding your time to Congressman Suwan. Okay. Congressman Suwan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Congressman Paulo, Deputy Majority Leader. May I request, Mr. Chair, that we also extend to the former President the same leniency that you extended for Congressman Raj and Congressman Zia. Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious. I'm certain that you believe that the way you conducted the drug war was legal. Am I correct?
That was the way I viewed how to control the crime, sir. The best way that I could have possibly undertaken sa isip ko as president. It was my sole single discretion.
Okay, sir.
Nothing could have moved without my order.
You say so. But I'm curious, if that was your belief, why did the Philippines withdraw from the International Criminal Court?
Hindi man, it has nothing to do with itong kaso.
The drug war. May I know the reason why you withdrew from the International Criminal Court?
It's a silly court.
I'm sorry, sir?
It's a silly court.
It's a silly, okay. It's a silly court.
Walang ginawa yan. Wala namang nakulong. Wala namang basta puro demanda yan. We have seen a lot of leaders, world leaders from Africa committing acts of murdering his people, murdering his neighbor. Wala man ako nakita, sir, na narinig nila na nakulong hanggang ngayon.
But were they actually members of the International Criminal Court, though?
Yes, sir.
They were also members?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And yet they were not tried?
They were tried, but wala kang nangyari.
Okay. Have you ever thought of actually facing the International Criminal Court instead of withdrawing? Had it ever crossed your mind back then?
Sir, hindi ako believe sa puti.